Okay, it started. So let's start, guys. So let's start from what is uh, what is programming. So that, before to go into what is programming, let's try to figure out why programming is required. Okay, so what is the requirement of this? So why should we learn this? That is the important thing. So I believe you all have already gone through flows, right? You all have gone through flows.
Yes.
Right. So from your perspective, what is programming and why it is required?
Actually, it is required for designing the platform of Salesforce organization.
So in general, if we are talking about any programming, that is not only Salesforce, designing the platform. Okay, so why we need to design any platform?
Suppose the it is for the client's requirement. Whatever the requirement of the client, we should have to go through.
What is the requirement? In
Suppose
general, what is the requirement?
suppose we have to add a picture in another way in the platform in another place. So if we can't able to do with this with the flow or any other options in the
Got it. Got
yeah.
it. Anyone else? So when we are sorry, when we are actually thinking about what is programming, the first thing we need to understand that in this digital world, why it is called digital? Because we read data in computer system, we read data, or even we write data in only binary format, that is 0 and 1. Okay, that is first thing. Second thing is that whatever we are doing here is nothing but manipulating data. We are manipulating data. So why we are manipulating data? We are manipulating data to work on it and to configure it and to identify what is our need, to arrange the data according to our need, and to get the data according to our need. It is nothing but data manipulation, what we are doing. Like Tomojit was saying, like if we have to add some pictures in somewhere in some website, that picture is also a data. If I am writing any string from where I have to find something, that is also a data. So it is only data that we are manipulating using programming. Okay, that is the baseline. Whatever you are doing, you are just doing data manipulation. So if you understand what is data manipulation, programming is nothing but writing that in some specific syntax. Okay, so data means, what is data? Data means something which I can store, which I can understand, which I can interpret. Okay, otherwise that is not a data. Probably that also we can say data, but that is garbage. But something which is readable, understandable, uh, on top of which we can do something, like I have to add two numbers. Okay, so I have to read the number one, number two, then add it, and we have to get that output. Like after adding, what is the number? Now to add numbers, we had calculator, so there was no need to write code. So code came into picture when we had to handle strings specifically. Strings means characters. Like this is a book. I have to find the word is. how many times present in this is a book. If that is the requirement, that then we have to write program, then we have to write some code to get that. Now why we have to write a code? Because this is a repetitive job we are trying to do. Like right now I told you this is a book, then I can just add more sentences in it. And if it is scalable in nature, like whatever I am trying to do, if I have to make that scalable in nature, scalable means that uh, whatever I am implementing for this thing, it can be utilized for other things as well, other more bigger things. I can just write 15 sentences within a string and then try to find out one word from that string. If that is my logic, that is the requirement for me. Okay. So programming we write when we have to reuse something. We have we don't have to uh, do the calculations multiple times manually. Machine is there to do that for like we will put those instructions to machine that you do this thing, you just figured out this word from a given string. So manually we can read that, but how many things manually we can do? If there are thousands of strings from which I have to find out a substring, it is not possible for a human being to go through that. But for machine that is possible. Why? Because that is a repetitive job. So machine cannot build your logic. You have to build your logic, and you have to instruct machine to do that for yourself. Same thing we are doing using flow. Think about it. Whenever there is any requirement, for that requirement, what is that requirement in broader perspective? If I don't go into very minute things, what you are doing, you are doing data manipulation. For opportunity, there are this fields. For this condition, I have to update this, or I have to add another child record. You are doing this thing only using flow. That is nothing but data manipulation. You are just doing data manipulation using, like in flow it is the configurable way. In Apex you will be doing that using coding. You will write some code. And why you are doing this, why you are writing a flow or code? Because that is, first thing is that is scalable. If tomorrow I have to do a bigger thing, I can reuse that part. Other thing is that the automation or um, manipulation of data automatically, so that you don't have to do that manually every time. So any repetitive job, always remember the best possible thing or best possible way to do a repetitive job using it is always a machine. Like you have to say um, anything, like you have to build a cycle. Okay. So first you have to create the blueprint, right? That how that cycle will look like, what is the length, what is the breadth, what is the size of the tire, if I need to have any gear or not, that design you have to prepare. Now once that is prepared, and you can build some machine which can build those parts and assemble those parts, then it is the automation which is going to handle that part. Now that automation part, like building this logic or building this blueprint, is your job. Executing your instruction is the job of the machine. So whenever you are writing any code, build your logic first. Don't jump into writing a code first. Try to build the logic in your brain, then write down that instruction, that is the code, and then check whatever you have written, whether that is interpreted by machine properly or not. There are two parts: whether whatever you have written, whether machine is interpreting that properly or not, and whatever logic you have built in your head, whether you have given the correct instructions or not within your code. So this is programming, nothing else. It is simple, it is precise. So this is the base, or this is the ground of programming. Why we write programming and what is the purpose of programming. Right? Got my point? Any question? Rakesh, lots of feedback from your side. Okay. So if we do not have any question, then we will move into the next step. So when we are writing programming, like, it has started long back, and I just want to give you very small, some brief before going into Apex programming. So initially there were machine level languages, then it has gone into high level language, but high level language were also, initially it was written in procedural language mostly, then it came into object oriented language. So I am not going into machine level language or uh, those things. Only I am just on in high level language, the process, what is procedural language and what is object oriented language. I'm just going into that thing first, in a very small way. So procedural language is nothing but sorry, let me check that. uh, so let me share my screen. I'm not sharing my screen probably. So if we look into procedural and object-oriented language, we can see few of the examples like C, Fortran. Whereas object-oriented, we have Java, C++, uh, Python. So whatever we are going to learn now, that is Apex. Apex is very much related to Java. You can say 95%, 99% even like Java, whatever we are going to learn. So, what is procedural language? Procedural language was a flat kind of coding. Flat kind of coding means you are writing one method or procedure, and it is wholesome, and this thing comes into picture, that is the top down approach. At, in object oriented programming, it is bottom up approach. So what is top down approach? That is, you have got the whole whole issue all together, you are thinking about it, you are trying to write it down as a whole, and then you are breaking it up into smaller pieces as and when needed. In bottom up technique, it is just the opposite. Like, you are looking into the smallest part of the issue, smallest part of the requirement. You are trying to build those smallest parts separately, and then combining it in a bigger thing, or the total thing you are building it as a whole. Once that is completed, like the smaller parts are completed. So you can just look into this if you think. This is also not that much important for us to learn Apex, but to understand or writing Apex in more efficient way, we need to know this. Like, it does not require right now, but going forward in future, when you would be writing more bigger code, at that time you should think about this paradigm. Like, you are working in object oriented language, not in procedural language. So uh, do that, divide and conquer, utilize that. So in procedural languages, we mostly use the primitive data types. What is data type? Data type is nothing but where you can store some data. It is a container. Within that container, you can store some data. Okay. And integer, string, decimal, these are the primitive data types. What is complex data types, which is known as object? What is that? When you can combine all these primitive data types within one and you can instantiate them. So it is a vague idea. Let's go into something which is tangible. Like we will write some code and we will look into it. What is primitive data type, and when we are trying to create something which is not primitive, how that looks like. We will do that today. Before that, what is class and what is object? When we are saying that we are going to work, we are going to write we are going to write something in object oriented programming. Then first thing is that what is object oriented programming, that we have already gone through, that it has some specific paradigm, like we have those specific features as well, like what are the constructs of object oriented programming, that we need to look into. So we have gone through this, what is purpose of the programming, what is programming, then high level difference of procedural and object oriented programming. uh, then now we are coming to this thing, that is object oriented programming, and what are the constructs of object oriented programming. Constructs means what are the things required to develop the code of object oriented programming. So basic thing is class and object, then the other things will appear. So what is class? Class is nothing but the blueprint of object, or blueprint of whatever you are trying to build. And object, what is object? Object is instantiation of the class. Instance of a class is called object. How we, and also like in this procedural and object oriented programming is more more near or more equivalent to real world issues or real world things. Like whenever we are looking into any real world thing, real world object, what we can see that there are few parameters, so few data is there, and some functionality is also there along with that. Like we were taking the example of cycle, right? So just give me one sec, there is background noise. Okay. So we have taken the example of a cycle, right? So you are building the blueprint, like how that cycle will look like, what is the size, what is the size of the tire, and blah 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 blah. Those things are actually like whatever you have written in your blueprint. In class, in same way you will write your things, like it will be your blueprint. And when you are creating those cycles, like the physical entity by which you can drive, that is the object. So that means if you are defining anything within a class, whatever you are writing within a class, that you cannot execute directly, you have to take the help of object. Whenever you are writing any code within class, you will write, you will define your variables, you will define your logic within methods or functions. What is method or function, we will come to that later. but that you cannot execute directly. You have to take the help of object. Like, you have built the blueprint of a cycle, but you cannot drive that cycle. To drive that, you have to create that physical cycle, the entity, right? That is the object. And from one blueprint of cycle, you can create multiple cycles, right? You can create one or you can create multiple cycles. So for those multiple cycles, whatever you are building from a single blueprint, all of those cycles will have the same capacity, same design, like same things will be there, same features will be there. I would say the same features you will get when you are building those cycles from a single blueprint. If you are changing your blueprint, that is a separate class, then that is different. But with that same blueprint, if you are creating multiple cycles, then it will have the same features. Like, if you have designed it with 5 gears, then obviously all these cycles will have 5 gears, right? So you are getting the concept of class and object. Do you have any question?
No, sir.
Nothing. Okay. Okay. So then let's come into one simple class, what we can write, and then see what we can do with these things. We will come into this variable and methods when we would be writing that class. Okay. So let me log in to my, let me log into my org. So how we can write a class? Uh, can you look into this, or should I increase the font? Is it better?
Now it's okay.
Okay. So let's not look into these things. So whatever we are doing this right now, that is indentation. And that's it, I believe. Let me save it. So, what is this? This public, whenever you are writing any class, how you can write that in Apex? You can go to setup. From here, you can go to setup. In setup, you can just check Apex. In Apex classes, you can click. You can go to that list, and in that list, you have new. Click on new button, and then you can do this. This is called the inline. Okay, this is the inline writing of code, but it is not suggested. Okay, so what is the suggested way to do that? Go to developer console. Okay, in developer console, you have files. Go here. You have new, create Apex class. You can open it here. Open and open resource is little different. How it is different? With open, you can just define the types. Okay, and then go into these things by manual searching. You can also put some filter here. I always prefer to do that with open resource. Open resource means anything, like if I type this first, so whatever first I have, it is already coming up here. Say this one, whatever I have written here, that I can say it here. Why I am doing this? Why I am doing it here? Because there are few advantages of doing this, and this is a proper editor. This is not a proper editor. Okay, now whenever we are writing any class, there are few things, like these are the commented ones. Let's not comment. Okay, now what is this? This keyword, whenever you are, whatever you are seeing here in purple, this purple color, okay, those are keywords. You can say keywords. In blue, whatever you are seeing, these are data types. Okay, so keyword means any word which has a specific purpose. Okay, any word which has a specific purpose in terms of programming is called keyword. Forget about this public right now. This public, this public, this public. For now, I will come to this. This is called access specifier. Okay, when we are looking into this, it is access specifier. Probably I cannot cover it today. I will try to cover it in second session. But before that, let's try to write some code with our hand, and let's try to test it. Whatever we have written, let's test it. Okay, and let's try to do like whatever we are doing. What is that? So whenever you are writing any class, you are defining any class, you have to use this keyword class. Public, for now, you just keep it mechanically that we have to write public, but everything, every word I will explain, so don't worry. So you have to use this keyword class. Whenever you are writing in this keyword class, system will try to build a blueprint of their own, that this is a class. I got this instruction that this code is trying to create some class, so accordingly it will behave. Okay, now whenever you are creating any class, you have to give some name. You have to call it something, right? Otherwise you cannot identify it later. Like in a program, in your package, Package means the whole thing. Okay, in your package you can define hundreds of classes. So what, when you are defining hundreds of classes, you have to give them some unique name. Unique name, right? Unique is important here. Unique name within a package so that you can identify them separately and access them later. Clear? Guys, this is a kind of half duplex mode. Like, I'm just speaking, I'm not getting much feedback from you, so I cannot understand whether you are clear or not. Do you need anything else or not? So at least let me know whether you are getting these points or not.
No, sir, it's okay.
Yes, sir.
I can understand it. It's fine.
Omshita,
Yes, sir.
you are getting the things till now,
Yes,
whatever I have told.
yes, sir.
Clear?
Yes, sir.
Okay. So uh, first thing, whenever we are writing any class, the keyword class is required. You have to put this keyword to identify, to give that instruction to the system that this, I am just building a class, and you have to give some name. That name must be unique, and this name cannot start with any digit. It cannot start. Okay, it must be a string. Okay, numeric values cannot be here. You can use underscore max, but that is not again suggested. And you cannot use special characters here. Okay, you cannot use. So whatever I have told right now about the name of a class, always think that name of anything, name of variable, name of method, these rules are applicable for any name. Whenever you are giving any name, name is something which you can give of your own, except that everywhere you have to use the specific syntax. And what is syntax? That is the way you can make the system understand your instructions. Whatever instruction you want to give to the system, how you can make the system understand that this is what I want from you to do with this code. So that is syntax. Every language has its own syntax, so syntax wise it will be different. Syntax you don't need to remember. Everything you don't need to remember. Like, if I have to print something, I have to put this system.debug. What is system.debug? This I will explain sometime, probably after fifth or sixth session. But for now, just keep in mind that system.debug is used to print something in console. How it can be printed, we will come to that later. But for now, just keep in mind that this is something uh, which I can like this is something by which I can print something. Okay, in console. So this is specifically you have to write this in this way, that system.debug. But for this name first class, I could have write first, then clss. I could have write that. Nobody is going to stop me. System will not complain that you have written something garbage. It will not complain. So that means this is name of a class, name of a method, name of a variable. These things are in your hand, like you have the freedom to give it a name. Okay, you don't need to worry about syntax. Yes, obviously specific, there are some specific characters which you cannot use, but you can give a name, proper name. So whenever you are able to give some name, then you will have some responsibilities as well. What is that responsibility? That responsibility is you have to give a name which is identifiable, which is readable. When you have written some code, if someone else is coming and looking into this, they should know that this was like why this class was written, what is the purpose of this class, what are the purpose of those methods. Here you have a single line code, it is not a very big deal, but we will come to that commenting of class and how we should write the comments. That I will I will come to that later. Who has written that, when it was written, all these things, why that is important, that also I will come. But for now, just keep in mind, whenever you are writing any class, whatever name you are giving, say there are three words in your name, so there must not be any space in the name, obviously, in those words. Just put all the first letter of those words in capital. Okay, this is the convention, naming convention. And whenever you are writing any method, use the same thing, like all the words without giving any space. Just keep the first word completely small. From second, third, fourth, fifth, whatever word you have used, use the first character as capital. So this is the naming convention for for the variable names as well. For this example, I have given this A and B, but don't use A and B as variable names. Okay, whenever you are defining any variable, I have given these two examples that what you should follow, and this is something which you should not follow. So keep that in your mind. Yep. Anyone saying anything?
No, sir.
No, sir.
Okay. So first thing we have got, like we have got our class, then class name. Within class, what we can write, what we should write within a class, we can define variables and we can define methods within class. These are called member variables and member functions or member methods. Okay, member means member of this class. Whatever you are writing within this class, these are the members, these are the members of this class. So what is variable? Variable is nothing but a container where you can store some data. So variable means it is nothing but a container where you can store something, some value or anything within this. It is a kind of a container. You have something with you which you can store here. That is variable. Now, what is type of a variable? Type. This is called the type. Type means data type. Remember, I have told you whatever you are doing is nothing but data manipulation. So whatever you are seeing right now, it is integer type. Integer, uh, decimal, these are there are few variables, data types, which are called primitive data types. So if I go here and so this is Apex developer guide, and you can just look into this primitive data types. What are the primitive data types can be used in Salesforce? Look into this. Okay. Also, you can just look into where is there? Anyway, this will also work. This is not a picture. So whatever links I am giving you here, keep those safe with you. So these are the required things you have to learn. These are the helps you need when you are learning Apex. So integer is one of the primitive data type. There are other primitive data types. We can have other primitive data types like boolean. Boolean will take only true or false value without any single quote. If we are using string, that must be in single quote. Then we have date, date time, decimal. I already told you. Double, we have double. Double is nothing but bigger size decimal mostly. ID is Salesforce ID. You know that is a different thing. Let's not go into ID right now. Long is long integer. Then object and these things. String is also they consider as primitive data type, but it is not actually. It is internal object. Time is also uh, primitive data type in Apex. So primarily we would be working with integer, decimal, and string in the name of primitive data types. Mostly, these are the things we are going to use. So here, what we have done, we have used this integer. Also, you can see this right here.
Yes, primitive
Mhm.
integers. You can use the integer like the primitive data.
Uh, Guys, whoever is speaking, I am not able to hear you.
Rakesh, are you saying anything? No.
No. Okay, let's move on. So here also, why I was telling you that write code in developer console, not in line, because here you cannot see this color changes and differences. Only the comment thing you will see, nothing else, right? But when you are writing the code in developer console, you can see these different color coding, and these color coding will give you the vision that what you are writing, whether that is right or wrong. Anyway, so here we have defined variables. So this is integer, and I have defined two integer variables. So why these data types are different, like integer, string, the decimal, double? So what is the purpose of that? Very simple. What type of data you are manipulating, you need to let the system know that I want to work with this in this way, because integer has like the way you behave with integer and the way you behave with string is different, right? It is something like you should not eat rice from a jug, and you should not drink water from a plate. It is just like that. So if you are just having some plate, then it has some specific the data type or the content, whatever you are putting there, trying to put there, it should be different. So it should not be something like all the things you should be using the same container to handle, right? So in same way, when you are writing programming, what type of data you are handling, depending on that, you will put something like the data type for that. Got my
So sir, like
point?
yeah, so like I have stored like name. Okay, so I can put syntax like string type is data type is
String
string.
s equals to whatever name you want to put, something like this.
So anything I can store in variable like, so declare first the data type.
Right. Say I am putting string s equals to uh, string, you must enclose that within single quotes whatever name you want to put. Here I have put the name. Okay, this is the string. I can change it. I can just put something else as well.
Yeah, okay, understand.
So whenever you are changing your code, you will see that there is a small star coming over here. When you save that, it will be gone. So keep that always. Whenever you writing something, always keep saving. So this is the class. So any class, what it can have variables and methods. Okay.
So I can declared any objects, variables. So in the classes, in classes like.
Object, yes, object also you can define. Object is nothing but complex data type. I will come to that later. For now, just keep in mind that we are just defining member variables and member methods. Right now we are working with primitive data type. Object, obviously we can define object as well.
Okay.
Okay. So we have gone through variables till now. What is a variable? So what is a variable? It is nothing but a container where we can store some value. It has a specific data type so that we can understand what type of data we are going to store there with that against that name. Like I am storing this something against this name S. So what is the type? What is the type of data I can store in S? That is string.
Mm.
Sir, can I change the data type after saving the class?
You can change the data type in that way. Your everything, every, like if you change the blueprint, what will happen? So the previous models will not be workable anymore.
Okay.
So if you are changing it, like say you are changing it from string to integer, say I am writing it integer. So what will happen? This value you cannot store anymore. Then you have to store some integer value here.
Okay.
What the point? Like you can change it, like, and there is no point to change the data type actually. If you need some additional data of specific type, you should declare that again. Ideally, once you save this, after that you think that I need few more variables, few more integer type variables, you will use them, you will add them, you will define those variables. This is the definition. You are defining these variables. Here also you are defining one variable. Now the thing is that after variable there is something else. What is that? That is method. Method is when you are you whatever logic you have to write to do anything, that should be within your method. That should be within your method, right? So uh here I am just trying to, my functionality is that whatever I have defined here, I am just trying to print it here. So that's why I have written system.debug. Now if I have to say, I have to calculate the area of a triangle or rectangle, sorry, then what I have to do, I have to define variables so that I can take the length, breadth, the length of the side, length of a side, these things, right? And then I have to write some methods. Say I should write the name as area, area of triangle, area of rectangle, so that I can do those calculations and functionalities, put those functionalities within the body of the of that method. Because whatever functionalities you want to perform from a class actually that class will not work, but when you define some object of that class, you will access them. So if you have to define that, then you have to put that within your method. So your method is nothing but the accumulation of the logic whatever you are trying to write. If you have three different purpose, you have three different purposes to serve from a class, you will write three different methods for that. Say you want area of rectangle, area of square, area of circle. You want this from a class. Okay, then you will define three
Three
methods.
method.
Exactly, with those specific uh, logic within that. Got it? So what is
Got it.
method? Method is nothing but the lines of code which will execute your logic, the required logic, and it will produce the outcome of that logic. It should produce the outcome of that logic. Okay. So when I am telling you all these things, there are few more specification we have. Okay. So what is that? We will come to this. Like, just check this thing, grab in your mind whatever I have told you till now. After this, we will go into another thing, that is the execution of this code. Till now we have only written this code, we haven't executed. We will go into execution. So before that, whatever I told you, just think about it. And I'm coming back in 2 minutes. But you think, if you have any question till now, because now there would be another paradigm shift, you will understand. Till now, whatever you have, I have told you, that is mostly the theoretical part. Now you are coming into the actual practical part. Okay. So from these things we have covered till this part. If you have any question, just keep that in your mind, or just jot down those. We can discuss those and then we can move on. So guys, any question came into your mind till now? Even looking into this class,
No, sir. Up till it's okay.
it's okay. Okay.
Yes, sir.
So I thought there would be at least two questions from you. First thing is that when you are looking into this code, uh, you can say this, right? Or should I increase the font?
Now it's fine, sir.
So you can look into this code. Do you have any question till now?
Sir,
Mm,
sir, uh, why is this public defined as I know something that it is for to access like private means
That is access specifier that I have already told I will cover
okay,
later. Okay.
okay,
Except that something which I haven't tell, I haven't told you that I am going to uh, cover that later, but I haven't explained that as well. Because whatever you are seeing here is logical. Everything has its logic. Okay, let me come to this. There are few lines which are uh, which ended with semicolon, and few lines which are not ended with semicolon. Can you see that?
yes, sir.
What
yes.
is the logic behind it? The logic for this is whenever you are writing something, some instruction, and that is completed, that instruction is completed in that line, in a single line, then it will be ending with semicolon. Semicolon means end of statement, and that end of statement is in that line. Okay, this can be multiple lines as well. When you will see this in a later, you will say this when there are bigger lines, we can break it down. But until and unless we are putting the semicolon, that statement is not completed. And few of the lines are not closed with semicolon. Why? Whatever thing has some body, body means which is not completed within a single line, that those things, those statements are not concluded with semicolon. Here you can see I am defining a class. A class is a body. A class has a body. That body will contain the member variables and member functions. It will enclose all those statements within it. That's why it has a body. And as it has a body, it is not closed in this line. Rather, there would be curly brace open and close to define the body of a class. Okay. Same way, this is a method. Again, what I have told you, like method is writing your logic. So it will contain the whole logic within it. And it is combination of statements. There can be multiple statements. I have written here value of A. Rather, I can write value of B. And I can do this thing. B equals to A plus B. So that means I am writing some logic within this body of this method. So a method also that also contains some body, and as it is contained, as it has a body and it is not completed in a single line, it is enclosed with curly braces, and all the statements of this body will be within this curly brace. So if I am writing something outside this curly brace, that means that is not part of this method. If I am writing something here whatever it is, then this thing is not part of this method. Getting my point?
Yes. So,
Yes, sir. Mhm. Tell me.
uh, sir, classes contain method and variables, and
Right.
method is contain logics, all logics.
All logic, those are actually statements, simple statements, like that can be addition, subtraction, that can be query to a query to some object. It can do some other manipulations that those we will come later. But at least just understand this part, that a method must have a body, and as it has a body, it is not completed within a single statement.
So, sir,
Single line.
we cannot declare the variable in a method. All
we
time
can
we can
declare we can declare
declared.
we can declare
Okay.
I can declare integer c equals to 12, something like this. This c, this method, this variable, this is only accessible within this method, not outside this method.
Okay. Okay.
if i
Understood.
if i just write another method here, say I am writing add, void add something, then I am writing another method, void subtract something. Again, this add and subtract both can contain, both can access these variables. But this c, if I define that within add, then that will be part of add only, that will not go beyond this. That is why this is called its body.
Okay. So only this variable only for this method.
Right. If I define it, then it is only within this method.
Okay.
Okay.
And
Mhm.
in the classes we can declare like integer a variable. So that variable is always working on.
Within this class,
Yeah.
within this class,
This
anywhere
class.
I can access
Anyways.
this.
Okay. Okay. Okay.
Okay.
Good, sir.
Okay. Now, so we have understood this code. I believe 90%. 90% of this code is explained, except couple of things. First thing is that this access specifier, why I am writing public, public, public. Why it is that? I haven't defined this void, and why this bracket open close. So whenever we are writing any method, say this is the method. Okay. Say this is the method. And then I am writing this. And this is why I am color coding, so that you can understand it properly. There I have written void. Here I have written integer. And there I have bracket open and closed, first bracket. But here I have written something. Why it is? Because this is, again, this is the name of the method, whatever name I am giving. Now, a method must have four things. First, name. Second, input arguments means a method, whenever I am calling, if I want to just provide some value within it, I just want to push some value within that method, then I have to use these input arguments. In that method, previously what I was showing, there it was not required. That's why I haven't given anything. But we can give this. We will come to this later. We will come to this method, like with argument, how it will look like. We will come later. Then a method must have some return type, right? Some return type means it can return some value to you. Here I have returned b, and b is integer. B is of type integer. That's why I have written integer here. In this method, I am not returning anything. I am not returning any value. That's why I have written void. So a method can have four parts. One is its name, then its input arguments, return type, and body. Okay. Access specifier is something else, which is true for in all other things. That's why I'm not saying that it is part of this.
So I have any return I have any return type, so I can
If you
put
return any value here,
values.
that type, that data type, you have to mention here.
Okay. Okay.
Okay. So we have already looked into this method. Now let's execute it. So there is one way to anonymously execute some code. So that is, you can go to this debug, open execute anonymous window. You will get this, and from there you can execute your code. Here I have defined an object of first class. So if I have to execute this body, if I have to access these things, then I need to define object, at least one object. I can define multiple objects as well. Obviously, the name of those objects needs to be different so that you can understand. Okay. So I have defined two objects. I don't need two objects actually. I need only one object, and I am just putting one thing here. I am calling the method. This method I am calling. And what will happen if I execute this? It will put these things in my debug log. How? Let's see. In these logs, you can see this. Once you execute that, one entry will be there for the debug log. Let's open it. Understanding debug log is one of the most important thing to write your code. Let's look into the debug statements first, then I will come back to all other things here. Value of b, look at this. Value of b 12521. What was my class? This was my class, right? Whatever the last saved, it is not saved till now. Whatever the last saved thing, it has executed it. A has value 12521. B has value 0. C I have defined, I haven't used anywhere. Don't do this in real programming, but here only to show you that we can define something. And then I have written b equals to a plus b. I will explain this statement next session, in next session. Then I have test debug and value of b. Where is this test debug? Look, this is the test debug. What you can see here, 6. What you can see here, 7. What you can see here corresponding to this, ideally it should, let's execute it once again. I believe the class was changed. Right. Now you can see debug, it is 7. and this is 8, 7, and then this is 8. So whatever is your line number in debug, you will get the line numbers as well. Okay. Now, if I look from the beginning, you can see this here. I have defined two objects. This is the namespace. This thing is nothing but namespace. This is my namespace, so don't worry about this thing. This FC1, FC1 is the object. In FC1 object, I have defined FC1 object. This is the memory. This is the memory where it is stored. It is actually not required. What are the things, what are the variables I have defined? Whenever I am instantiating any object, any class, all the variables, whatever I have defined, that should be instantiated. It will create the copy of those variables. Okay. So in FC1, I have a copy of A, I have a copy of B, I have a copy of S. Okay. Same way in FC2, I have, it is initialized. Actually, these are the initialized values. Again, within FC2, I have a copy of A, I have a copy of B, I have a copy of S. Whatever the initial values are there, it is already given. That is fine. Again, you can see from where this method started. Method entry, right? This is method entry. Which method? This method. Line number 4, method entry. And you will also see method exit, variable assignment, blah blah. This is method exit. So whatever method you have written, you can see this method exit thing as well. So that means whatever you are doing, how system is interpreting that, how system is interpreting that, that is actually coming into this thing, coming into like in this debug log. And I have written everything right. That's why it didn't complain. Otherwise, it will complain. If I try to save it, it will not save. And it has given some problem. Line 4, unexpected token public. Why unexpected? Because you haven't, with public, you can define variables, you can define methods. So you haven't enclosed it
In
with semicolon, or you
semicolon.
haven't given any first bracket open close. Yep.
Yes, sir. The semicolon is missing. So the problem.
Exactly. That's why you were getting this problem. Inline, if you write this code inline, at that time, if you save it, it will show the error at the top. Here you can show the problem. You can get the problem within this problems tab. I can show it. Anyway, that is not that much required, but I will show you in inline code as well. Now, if this is my code, I have just written something like b equals to a plus b, and then I am showing it here. That means I have added two values and I am showing it here. If I have to add two strings, what I can do? I can define two strings here, and then again I can just some, like I can concat those two strings, and then I can print it here. So this system.debug will give you the access within your code to look into the values of the variable specifically. So whenever you are doing any operation, say I just want to write something here, something like this. If b is greater than this, then do something. But I don't know what is the value of b, and I am saying that in this if statement that is not executing, then what I can do, I can just put the system.debug just before this if and just print the value of b, and I can execute the debug so that I can understand, I can clearly understand that what is the value of b and why the next statement is not executing, probably, right? So just do one thing, write it down. You go to your org, write it down, then go to debug, and with this open execute anonymous, just execute this small piece of code like this method only. Do this thing, like the additional part you don't need, like this definition of this integer. Even if you can omit this thing, but only a and b, take a and b and just print those values. Just do it of your own. Now if you are facing any problem, we can check it, and then we can just move into the next part. Probably next day we will do that. Like I will define this, what are the operators we have, like addition, subtraction, multiplication, division. What is equal to? Probably equal to thing I can just tell you now. So equal to is, here equal to is not like algebra. Okay, whatever you have done in your school days, it is not like that. Equal to means here, in programming, equal to means you are taking the value of your right hand side and assigning that to your left hand side. So whenever you are assigning some value, that then that must be of type variable, like that is some type of variable where you can store it. Okay, so you cannot write a statement like a plus b equals to b or a plus b equals to c. Here I could write this, like say I could just put it like this: c equals to this, and I can just debug it with c. But this is the correct statement. But you cannot write this a plus b equals to c. This is not right. So don't ever write it here. This is the correct statement, obviously, because here you have a container where you are storing some value. This a plus b is a plus b plus is again one operator which will add up two values, two sides of the values, and it will return some value, like a method. It will return some value. So when you are returning some value, you have to assign it. So you cannot only write a plus b. You cannot. Okay, so this statement is also wrong. So whenever you are adding something, subtracting something, you have to assign that to somewhere. Like you are just adding up some content plus some other content, and then the combined value, this combined value, you are assigning to some container. That's what you are doing when you are putting this statement c equals to a plus b. Even if you are writing this a equals to something, that means the right hand side value, you are assigning that to left hand side. That's what you are doing. So
Same
got it?
like sir in flow assignment, right?
Right, right.
Yeah.
So you cannot write it in other way, that is a plus b equals to c. It is not like that. That is only possible in algebra, not in programming. Okay, so I just do this thing. Even you just you can copy it from here, but do it of your own, of with your own hands in your org. Then you will understand.
Okay, sir.
So complete that and let me know if you have any issue. Let me know, and then I will give you few assignments for next day.
Okay, sir.
Okay, sir.
Just give me one sec. Let me know once it is done.
What I have to search in open source is it class. Can you help?
No.
Sir,
So it's done.
Tell me, you were saying something?
what I have tried in the open resource is it the class or I can remember it.
I'm not getting your point.
Sir, what I have to search in the open resource to get the first class to write that.
You have to log into your system.
Yeah.
System means you have to log into your environment.
Yes, sir. I already logged in and I opened the
Go to
developer
setup.
console.
Go
Yeah.
to setup.
Yeah, I opened it.
Then open this developer console.
Yes, sir.
From file, go to new, and then Apex Plus. New Apex Plus. Then you can type.
Sir, can you once more please explain the anonymous window part?
Sorry, I couldn't follow you.
Sir, can you please explain the anonymous window part once again?
Yep, I can. Have you completed this part?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Everybody completed, or
Yes, sir, completed.
anyone is there
I
who
I didn't, sir.
you didn't?
No, sir. I
Continue it. Come, let everybody complete. Then I will explain this.
Okay, sir.
I got stuck at the point, sir. What I have to search in the open resource after naming the class.
After
After
saving the class,
after creating the name of the class, what I have to search for the in open resource.
you don't have to search for anything. You can just write it down here.
Yes, sir.
These open and open resource I have shown because if you have closed it, then you can open it again. First time when you are writing this new apex, you have put this anything. You can write it down here. If you want to find, then you can just write the name of the class. So this is the class actually. In this way, you can just open a class. Class has the uh, extension CLS. Tamojit, let me know once done.
I am done, sir.
Yeah, Anshita? Tomoji is done.
Sir, I need some time, sir.
Okay. Yep. Let me do one thing. So if you haven't completed, I have just put that in message.
No, sir,
You
it's
can copy paste it from there.
no, sir. Let it be, sir. Could you just let
So
it
let me go back to open execute anonymous. So execute anonymous window is the way you can execute any code in your org. Any code. So here I have defined one class. So that's why I have created the objects of that class like this one only to show, and then I have called the method. So this is the first basic thing how you can test your code. Next day we will just assign different values in the variables of this class. How we can do that, we will check that. We will do it, and then we will try to the uh, we will try to print the objects separately, and let's see what happens.
So, what is the function of new here?
Good question. This is called constructor. I will define this like this new and this thing. The name of the class, I am repeating it here with some bracket open close. This bracket open close thing is it looks like something like method, right? So this is actually the constructor. We haven't written any constructor. It is the default constructor. So constructor is a separate class. I will go through that. Okay. So constructor is used to initialize the variables of a class, as well as it will initialize the memory location, memory address, or you can say the memory allocation. It does so that it is initialized. The object is initialized in the memory, the system memory.
Got it, sir.
Sir, I also
So are we done?
Yes, sir.
Okay. So uh, do try to do few things. Let me open. Go through this. That is how we can write if statement in Apex. Okay. So your homework for next day is that go through this, go through the previous one as well. That is the primitive data type, and write one method. You will take one variable. You will check whether that you will take one integer variable, and you will check whether that variable is even or odd. It is simple.
Okay.
Like this. I have closed that probably. You will take a class. Within this class also you can do. Take some integer, give like one where one just write one method, check even or odd. Okay, put the name, check even or odd, and within this you have to write your logic, and with the system.debug you will print whether that number is even, odd, that number is odd. Okay, just give me 1 second. আর্জেন্ট কিছু পরে ফোন করছি তাহলে। So this is, within this you will write your if statement, check the condition, and put system.debug, else just put your second bracket on and off, and then put that whether it is odd. So this is your first assignment for next day, and next day we will go through constructor, we will go through operators once again, if, for, while, these things, constructor, access specifier. Okay, and we will try to touch upon the basic object oriented programming principles, like on which object oriented programming is actually depending upon, by which we can access them, right? So let me know if you have any question, we can discuss that, or if not, then we can close the call. Anyone?
No, sir.
Pallab, Rakesh, Sushanto?
I'm good, sir.
Good. Then
No,
if
sir.
you do not have any question, then we can close for today, and next day we can just go through these things. But whatever you have learned today, go through that. Don't like think that I have 7 days, I'll check that later. Don't do that. Every day religiously open the system, try to write something, some class, and go through this developer.salesforce.com. This is very important. If you have any question, next day, first 10 minutes, 15 minutes, we will clear out those questions, those answers, those doubts. Then we will go into these new things, and then we will go for another assignment. So next day you would have more assignments, like 4 or 5 assignments I will give you. So first day you should go through these things. Okay.
Okay, sir.
Shobanda, you can just
Okay, sir.
close the recording as well.